everybody, Ellie here for WhoCulture, and the time has come to find you as many Easter eggs as we possibly can in the Memory TARDIS, and let me tell you, there's lots of them. Number 81. So the Doctor first enters the Memory TARDIS and he almost smacks his head on something that's sticking down from the ceiling. This is the time rotor from the third Doctor John Pertwee's TARDIS. It's just flipped vertically and stuck there up on the ceiling as opposed to its usual position in the centre of the TARDIS console. Number 80 to number 75. So speaking of TARDIS consoles, there are bits and pieces of various TARDIS consoles scattered around this Memory TARDIS. There's a bit of the 11th Doctor's first console, which the 15th Doctor uses to make the Memory TARDIS fly. There's a bit of the 3rd Doctor's console, the 11th Doctor's second and the 12th Doctor's first console, the final console of the classic era, which was used by the 5th, 6th and 7th Doctors, and a chunk of the 9th and 10th Doctor's TARDIS console as well. And that 3rd Doctor time rotor part that we just mentioned is embedded in a version of the 4th Doctor's TARDIS console, which is again flipped upside down and stuck on the ceiling. Number 74. So over the Doctor's shoulder, when he first enters the Memory TARDIS, you can see a mini version of the jukebox that sits in his main TARDIS. Now, although the Memory TARDIS does mostly lean to past Easter eggs and references, it is cool to see that there is a current era moment here as well. And of course, we did speak about the intelligent gloves in the first part of our Easter eggs. Number 73 to number 71. What are the round things? Absolutely no idea, but I can tell you there are a ton of them. There are some of the hexagonal roundels from the 13th Doctor's TARDIS, the coral roundels from the 9th and 10th Doctor's TARDIS, and not technically a roundel, but there's also that huge round thing that was mounted on the ceiling in the 1st Doctor's TARDIS console, and it's also mounted on the roof in the Memory TARDIS. Number 70. So sticking with this first shot of the Memory TARDIS, you might have noticed a couple of metal girders on either side of the room. These are from the 8th Doctor's TARDIS console room, which is seen in the 1996 TV movie. It's a very underrated TARDIS. It's not very familiar to a lot of fans, but personally I think it's one of the best ones. Number 69, and then right next to one of those girders, inside one of the roundels, is the head of a Cyberman. But it's not just any Cyberman, this surely has to be Handles, the 11th Doctor's companion from the time of the Doctor. So the Doctor was on Trenzalore for centuries, which means that Handles is actually one of the longest serving companions in the show. To be honest, he never gets the credit that he deserves. So big up Handles, what a guy. Still sitting there in the TARDIS even now.
Thank you, Handles. And well done.
Number 68. Also next to that girder is one of the Doctor's famous orange spacesuits. So it was first seen in the 10th Doctor story, The Impossible Planet and the Satan Pit, and it's been worn by every Doctor since then. And then the helmet is also visible a little bit later, just perched on top of one of those TV screens. Now the 15th Doctor hasn't actually worn this suit yet, but it's only a matter of time, I say. We'll see him in it at some point. Number 67 and number 66. On the opposite side of the room, we've got a two-in-one. So there's a fez, which is most famous for being an iconic part of the 11th Doctor's wardrobe, but it was also briefly donned by the 7th Doctor in Silver Nemesis. That fez is sitting on top of a Toclafane, which is one of the Master's spherical minions from the Series 3 finale. Now the Toclafane are actually the final form of the human race, stuffed inside a big metal ball. So sure, use that to perch your fez on. That's not weird at all. Number 65 to number 62. So a little bit later on in the episode, the Doctor, Ruby and Mel all enter the Memory TARDIS, and there's a bunch of items on either side of the doors. On the left, we can see one of the 4th Doctor's iconic and ridiculously long scarves, which is then used by Mel later in the episode to tie everything down when the TARDIS starts exploding. Below the scarf is one of the wooden hobby horses that was on sale in the toy maker's shop in the Giggle. There's also the 11th Doctor's top hat, which he wore during his post-Pond depression in the 2012 Christmas special, The Snowmen. And then on the right, we can see multiple different versions of the TARDIS key, including the more unusual shapes that we've seen in the past, such as the 7th and 8th Doctor's key from the TV movie. Number 61. And then a few moments later, oh my god, K9, what have they done to you? So behind Ruby and the Doctor, mounted on the wall, is the head of the Doctor's loyal robot dog, K9, displayed up there like some sort of hunting trophy. Now, K9 actually did have his head knocked off in the 4th Doctor serial Full Circle, so I would assume that this was some sort of weird homage to that. But poor K9. Number 60. So as well as a bunch of TARDIS consoles and roundels, there's also a whole bunch of sonic screwdrivers in the Memory TARDIS. And that one, just tucked on the side right there, that's River Songs. It's funny the things you find lying around, isn't it? You know, one day I just turned around and there on my desk, River Song screwdriver. Weird. Number 59 to number 57, and while we're on the topic of sonic screwdrivers, a little later on, Mel opens a drawer and pulls out the War Doctor's sonic screwdriver, which itself is a modified version of the 4th Doctor's screwdriver, and then she pulls out the 13th Doctor's screwdriver as well. There's also the 14th Doctor's sonic screwdriver that's sticking out of one of the consoles, and Ruby starts to tie some string around it a little bit later on. Number 56 and number 55. So jumping back to where River's sonic screwdriver is sat, in that same shot, we can see the force field generator from the 3 Doctors. Now the generator in the Memory TARDIS also has the 2nd Doctor's recorder stuck inside it, which again is another reference to the 3 Doctors, where the recorder again was stuck inside the generator in that story as well. Number 54. In the next shot, the Doctor is tinkering with 11's TARDIS console, and on the left is the number plate that reads Who Won. This is from the 3rd Doctor's yellow car called Bessie, which he used for a time after he was exiled on Earth by the Time Lords. It's been decades since we've seen Bessie, and quite honestly, I think it's time to bring back a car for the Doctor. I feel like 15 could have a car. What kind of car would he have? Number 53. So Mel turns around towards the hat stand and she has this really sweet moment with a necktie and a multicoloured coat. These are both items of clothing that belonged to Colin Baker's 6th Doctor, who was the 1st Doctor that Mel travelled with. So this was a really nice, touching moment to honour both Mel as a character, but also for Bonnie Langford as well. Number 52 and number 51. Every TARDIS needs a decent chair. And this one has 2. So in the middle of the room on the left is the chair from the 11th Doctor's 1st TARDIS console room. And then on the right, there's a chair from the 9th and 10th Doctor's console room. And then later on in the episode, the Doctor and Ruby are just sitting on the floor. Why are you sitting on the floor? There's 2 perfectly good chairs right there. Number 50. So the Memory TARDIS goes a little bit haywire, and there's a quick shot where several items fall out of one of the roundels. So here's another one for the River counter, because one of those items looks like it's River Song's blue diary, which first appeared in Silence in the Library, and lots of episodes since then. Now this might not actually be her diary. It's very hard to tell. It's a very, very quick sequence, but we do know that her prop was on that set somewhere. So here's a counter for it anyway. We know it is in there somewhere, but I think that might be it falling down there. Again, funny the things that just fall around. You know, one day I was just sitting here and then one of these little panels here just opened up and boom, I have a diary as well. Number 49. So in the same shot, sneakily put away in the corner there, is a poster for the Psychic Circus. The 7th Doctor and Ace visited the Psychic Circus in the 1988 serial The Greatest Show in the Galaxy. And there are a bunch of these posters hung up around the ticket office. I'm going to give credit to Danny for spotting this one, because even when he sent me the screenshot, I still was like, where? But it's definitely there. We take our Easter egg hunting very seriously here. Number 48. So straight after this, the Doctor's trying to stop everything from falling over, and on the right-hand side, just above the TARDIS console, is the 7th Doctor's calling card from Remembrance of the Daleks, which the Doctor produces with some rather impressive sleight of hand in that story, so bonus points there. Number 47. So in the next shot, there are some more things falling out of the roundels, and tucked away in the right there, just in the corner, is one of Rose Noble's stuffed toys that she was making and selling in the Star Beast. Now there are a few more of Rose's toys scattered around the place too, like the ones lying under 9 and 10's console, just under there. A little bit hard to spot, but they are there. Number 46. So when Mel is done rooting through the sonic screwdriver drawer, over her shoulder, you can just glimpse a painting hiding in the background on one of the shelves. This is of Joe Martin's Fugitive Doctor, who was introduced in Series 12 as a past incarnation of the Doctor. Now this isn't the Fugitive Doctor's main look, and graphic designer Sophie Cowdery actually revealed on Twitter her headcanon is that this is from an unseen past adventure. Probably something that Big Finish will lap up and explore at some point in the future. Number 45. So in that same shot of Mel, there's a blurry sign in the background just on the right. This is the 12th Doctor's Carol Singers Will Be Criticised sign that was hung on the TARDIS in the Husbands of River song. Number 44. So let's go to some more pictures of Whoniverse stars now. In the very next shot of Mel, just hanging next to one of those metal girders is the 13th Doctor's companion Yasmin Khan's police ID. So when we first meet her in The Woman Who Fell to Earth, Yaz is a probationary officer for the Hallamshire Police in Sheffield. Presumably due to the constantly being away with the Doctor thing though, it is revealed in Flux that she did leave the police altogether.
Yasmin Khan, formerly PC Yasmin Khan of Hallamshire Police, very human.
Number 43. So the Memory TARDIS continues to go crazy and eventually it catches fire. And in the first shot of that fire, we can see the view screen from the 11th Doctor's first TARDIS console room. Now that screen was on like a flexible arm and it could be pulled down and moved around, which really fit with the mad energy of the 11th Doctor. Number 42, and just behind that view screen is an electric guitar leaning against the wall. Now it's kind of difficult to tell which guitar, but if you look at some of the behind the scenes material, we can clearly see that it's the red variant that's used by the 12th Doctor in Hellbent. And of course he did also have a white variant which was used in episodes like The Magician's Apprentice and Before the Flood as well. Number 41. So the TARDIS is on fire, as we just mentioned. So the Doctor finds a nearby fire extinguisher and gives it a good blast. This is the exact same fire extinguisher used by the 11th Doctor in The Angels Take Manhattan after the TARDIS has a bit of a rough landing in the graveyard for the first time. Number 40. So with the fire all dealt with, the gang starts tying intelligent rope around the Memory TARDIS. And in the background, we can see a small sign that reads "Out of Order." So this sign was first used by the first Doctor in The War Machines. Basically, when he landed in the 60s, people would mistake the TARDIS for being a real police box, so he hung that sign there to kind of ward people off. And then the sign made a return decades later in the 12th Doctor episode, The Pilot, presumably being used to get rid of any nosy students who were lurking around the Doctor's office. Number 39 and number 38. So the Doctor is still tying rope everywhere, and tucked on a shelf in the far corner is a book called A Journal of Impossible Things. This is the book written by Joan Redfern's great-granddaughter, Verity Newman, about Joan's romantic encounter with the 10th Doctor in Human Nature and the Family of Blood. Now, 10 actually visited Verity just before he regenerated into 11 to ask her if Joan was happy in the end, and also got Verity to sign the book. So presumably this is the book. I love how this TARDIS is so full of the Doctor's life, even the moments that absolutely broke his heart, like the way his relationship ended with Joan. And right next to A Journal of Impossible Things is another book called Advanced Quantum Mechanics, which the 11th Doctor was reading at the start of the Day of the Doctor. I mean, who doesn't love a bit of light reading early in the morning, eh? Number 37. So one of those iconic props that I think a lot of people expected to see here in the Memory TARDIS were the 10th Doctor's 3D glasses, which he used in the Series 2 finale to check out all the void stuff. They're a little bit difficult to spot, but they are there. So while the Doctor is still tinkering with the intelligent rope, if you look at the very bottom of the frame just here, almost hidden out of shot, the glasses are perched right here on a shelf. Number 36. So up next, the award for the weirdest reference. So sticking with the same shot that the 3D glasses are in, if you look on the left, just above the TV screen, is that a little Slitheen head? A teeny tiny cute little Slitheen head. Please tell me you all see that too. Or have we been staring at these Easter eggs for way too long and seeing things that aren't there at this point? Number 35 and number 34. In this shot, we can also see several bits of paper nestled to the side of the TV screen and just below it. These include a Happiness Patrol auditions poster from the 7th Doctor serial The Happiness Patrol, and some of the Rose Tyler missing posters from when she returns home a year later in Aliens of London.
It's not 12 hours, it's 12 months. Sorry.
Number 33. So from a modern reference to a very old reference now, when we cut from the Doctor to Mel, on the far left of the shot, there's a bowl containing several blue things. These are fluid links, which were first seen in the serial The Daleks, which was the second ever Doctor Who story and started airing way back in 1963. So fluid links are a component of the TARDIS that run on Mercury, and the first Doctor lied to his companions and said that the fluid link was out of Mercury, basically because he wanted to go out and explore the nearby Dalek city. So in other words, the fluid link is responsible for the Doctor's first encounter with the Daleks, which is quite a lot of history for such a tiny little prop that a lot of people might not have even recognised. Number 32 to number 29. So a few moments later, and there's another wide shot of the Memory TARDIS set. And floating just above Mel's head there is the Doctor's psychic paper. So that was first introduced in the 2005 revival in the episode The End of the World, and it's been used by every other Doctor since then, including the 15th Doctor as well. Now, next to the psychic paper is the 3rd Doctor's unit ID, and though it's slightly less visible in the episode, there's also an 11th Doctor bow tie. Bow ties are cool, and a fob watch hanging there as well. And we do know that currently the 13th Doctor's memories are stored inside a fob watch and presumably still living deep inside the TARDIS, so it makes sense that that one would pop up within the Memory TARDIS, I think. Number 28. So after sitting outside and looking at the destruction of the Earth, the Doctor comes back inside, flicks a switch and closes the TARDIS doors. Now the sound that these doors make when they close has been used in the show throughout the classic series, like in this scene in The Two Doctors.
Let me do the talking.
Number 27 to number 23. So a few moments later, the Doctor's talking about some of the planets that have been destroyed by the death wave. He mentions Venus, Telos, Khan, the Ood Sphere, and Skaro. Now, Venus was visited by the First Doctor and Susan off-screen. Telos was home of the Cryons and one of the planets of the Cybermen, and was visited by the 2nd and 6th Doctors. Khan is the homeworld of the Sisterhood of Khan, and appeared in stories like The Brain of Morbius and also the Night of the Doctor minisode. The Ood Sphere, obviously the Ood homeworld, and was visited by the 10th Doctor on 2 occasions. And Skaro, which is home of the Daleks. Most recently, it was visited by the 14th Doctor in Destination Skaro, which was the Children in Need special last year. Something else that's very interesting, the Ood were actually first introduced in the Series 2 story The Impossible Planet and the Satan Pit, where they fall under the influence of the Beast. Now what's interesting is the Beast was voiced by Gabriel Wolfe, who is also the voice of Sutekh. Ooh, lots of weird connections. Number 22. So tucked next to one of those TV screens that's showing off all those planets is a can of custard. This obviously is a reference to the 11th Doctor's favourite snack and also the 15th Doctor's favourite snack, as we were informed in Boom, fish fingers and custard.
Fish fingers and custard is my favourite.
Number 21. So in front of the next TV screen is a small mobile phone looking device, which is the TARDIS from the 12th Doctor episode Flatline. So this device was created by 12 to return any objects to 3D that had previously been flattened into 2D by the Boneless. Number 20. Memories within memories now, and it's another 11th Doctor Easter egg here. So right next to one of those TV screens that's showing the destroyed planets, you can see the top of a suitcase. Now this case contains a whole bunch of the 11th Doctor and Amy Pond models that were built by young Amelia as she was growing up, all based on her single encounter with her mysterious Raggedy Man imaginary friend. And the case itself also belongs to Amy. We see it in her bedroom in Series 5. Number 19 and number 18. Next up, it's hammer time. When the Doctor crouches down to inspect one of the TV screens, on his left, just hanging off of 9 and 10's console part, is what appears to be the hammer that features in 9 and 10's TARDIS. So basically they'd use the hammer to whack the TARDIS and make it behave. Don't actually know if it ever actually did anything, but it's just one of those funny quirks that would often happen. And the hammer was actually used by Donna Noble to whack the back of a Sontaran's head in The Poisoned Sky. And it also returned in Series 13 with the 13th Doctor and Yaz. Now the Memory TARDIS also contains the huge mallet that was used by the 15th Doctor to split the TARDIS into 2 in The Giggle. Now it's very well hidden behind one of the chairs, but the handle is just visible in certain wide shots. Again, we take our Easter egg hunting very seriously. Number 17. So after gathering the special spoon from the kind woman, the Doctor returns to the Memory TARDIS and the set looks slightly different now. So in the middle of the room there's a miniature version of the 13th Doctor's TARDIS console room, and the Doctor and Ruby are kind of sat around it as if it's almost like a campfire. But I think this is a really nice touch. Almost like this idea that the Memory TARDIS can sort of adapt and change based on the situation and what's required. Also, I just really love that it's like a little campfire. Number 16 to number 12. So during this scene, we cut to Mel, who is resting in the corner, and there are a couple of different references in this particular shot. So first of all, Mel is holding on to the 7th Doctor's question mark pullover vest, which again is another connection to one of the Doctors that she travelled with in the classic series. So that was a lovely moment as well. She's almost hugging it too. Now next to Mel is a blanket that looks suspiciously like the poncho that's worn by Rory in Amy's Choice. And then behind the pipes, in the background, is the logo go for the Albion Party, which is the political party that was led by Roger ap Gwilliam in 73 Yards. Now on the far right, we can see some playing cards, and we know that the Doctor has performed a few card tricks in the past, or at least attempted to, but the cards could also be a reference to the toy maker who we saw in The Giggle. But perhaps the best and maybe weirdest reference in this entire episode, I would say actually, is the box that Mel is leaning on. That is the box that Dorian Maldavar's decapitated head was stored in the Wedding of Riversong. And all I can wonder is it still in there? Is she just leaning on his head box? Weird. Number 11. So the Doctor is telling Ruby about how he and Mel used to travel together, and he notes that they met Einstein. This is a reference to the 7th Doctor's debut serial Time and the Rani, where he and Mel are kidnapped by the villainous Time Lord, the Rani, along with Albert Einstein. Number 10. Now, this is an Easter egg that greatly pleased our lovely Sean Ferrick because it's from his favourite episode. So on a shelf behind the 11th Doctor's TARDIS console part, you can see one of the clockwork droid masks from the 10th Doctor story, The Girl in the Fireplace. It actually looks really creepy sat there, especially when you kind of catch a stray glimpse of it just in the background of the scenes. It's really creepy. Number 9 to number 1. So there are also a ton of items that are either not properly visible in the episode or were only shown in the behind the scenes material. So I'm just going to list those ones off now. So on the shelf underneath the TARDIS keys, there's Bill Potts' University Kitchen Staff ID, which I think is really nice because Bill Potts is a very underrated companion. So it's nice that she got a nod there as well. There's also some jelly babies in a jelly baby dispenser. Jelly babies, of course, are most associated with the 4th Doctor, but the 12th Doctor did also use a jelly baby dispenser in the Mummy on the Orient Express. There's the huge book that is the history of the Time War, which Clara found in the TARDIS library in Journey to the Centre of the TARDIS. There's also some red and yellow balls just dotted about, and they look to have been taken from the scene where the toy maker in The Giggle turns all the unit soldiers into a load of colourful balls. Again, very grim scene. Why are they in the TARDIS? I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that's what they're in reference to. There's also this little spiky metal device that is taken from the 11th Doctor's TARDIS console, and there's also a yellow yo-yo, which was most recently used by the 12th Doctor in The Girl Who Died. Now, right at the back of the room, near one of the metal girders, there's a spooky face that looks very much like one of the Cyber Shade masks from the next Doctor, and there's also a creepy doll lurking in the background that looks very similar to some of those Stooky dolls that we saw in The Giggle. Now, we could be wrong on those two, but that's what we think that these are. At the bottom of that hat stand, we have Riversong's red heels from the time of Angels. Whew, that is all of the Easter eggs and details that we managed to spot in this episode. And if you spotted any that we did not mention in this list, then please do let us know in the comments down below. And as I said at the beginning, make sure that you do check out the first part of our Easter egg breakdown as well, which covers the entire rest of Empire of Death. In the meantime, I've been Ellie for WhoCulture, and in the words of Riversong herself, goodbye, sweeties.